fall in love with the way they've captured the youth and that feeling of falling in love and, like I said, a little bit of heartbreak or his emotions to you only live once in this life. So you should take the risk. You should get off the train in Vienna with a random person you don't know because you just don't know if you're ever going to see this person again and you only live once. Take advantage of the time that you have. Hey guys, welcome back to When the Lights Go Down. I'm your host, Ashley Francoeur. And last week we interviewed my husband, Trey, and we kind of picked his brain and found his favorite directors, his movie recommendations, and kind of what he loves about cinema. At the end of the episode, I foreshadowed this week's starting our mini series. One of the first movies my husband sat me down and told me we're watching this no interruptions was Before Sunrise. So I thought following his interview would be a great idea to do a three-part mini-series. All right, guys, so let's get into it. Before Sunrise was directed by Richard Linklater. So let's do a little director background information. He first realized that he's passionate about film while he was working on an oil rig during college, and he realized that he wanted to be a director. So that means he never went to film school. The experiences and everything he learned was while he was picking up working in the industry. He's a producer on 35 movies. He's directed 36, a writer on 24 movies, and he's acted in 12. Many of his movies have characters that express themselves with psychological talks. So he puts emphasis on creating realistic characters and dialogue. And I will specify later on more about the script and the dialogue that he specializes in. Most of his movies focus on ordinary characters in their everyday life. We kind of get a sense of that in this movie. So you kind of get a cut into a day in these people's lives, which I think is a great idea. So this movie premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 1995. And this movie ends on a massive cliffhanger. Just warning you guys. All right. So this movie stars young Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy. They filmed this movie in their mid-20s, and the movie is centered around Ethan Hawke's character Jesse and Julie Delpy's character Celine. So the pair meet on a train from Budapest to Vienna. Jesse had been traveling around Europe on his own for the past few weeks. Celine was in Budapest visiting her grandmother, and she was heading back to Paris. After being moved around on the train, Celine and Jesse spark up a conversation. After a little bit, Jesse asks Celine if she'd wander around the city with him. He asked this because he had been wandering around Europe for a couple of weeks, so he was running out of money. So he didn't have money for a hotel. So they passed the time before Jesse's scheduled flight back to New York the next morning. And she'd board the train to go back to Paris in the morning as well. They spend the night knowing that it would be realistically the last time they speak. So as they wander through Vienna, they talk about their life and their thoughts on love, religion. They talk about their past experiences with relationships. After some time wandering the city, going to parks, going to record stores, they admit to each other that they have attraction. And then they decide to make the best of the time remaining. So it ends with the characters at the train station in the morning. They decide not to exchange any contact information. Remember, this is 1995, so you could get a house phone number, and you could get an email, and that's about it. Instead, they decide to leave it up to fate, and they'll meet in the same place at the Vienna train station in 6 months. All right, so let's talk about the behind the scenes. So they use a naturalistic documentary style when they do this film. So it's displayed with how they keep the scenes fluid and extend the longevity of the scenes. The camera work is shot a whole paragraph instead of just cut up. Um, so Linklater explains that the movie was shot in chronological order and they rehearsed the script every weekend throughout the shoot. Linklater and his co-writer Kim Kriatson rewrote the final scene right up until before the shoot. So they were making little changes, and I think, like everyday life, they were kind of figuring out what would be more of a realistic ending. So the inspiration for the movie was Richard Linklater had spent one night with a woman he met in Philadelphia in 1989. He said to her at some point during the evening, "I want to make a film about this feeling." He claims that he was trying to capture that rush of meeting someone. He was expressing that flirting and romance. I think that was really captured in the film. I do believe that he expressed that feeling of rush and that feeling of flirtation and new emotions and curiosity that you get when you first meet someone and you're kind of interested and oddly cautious. Um, I think he really displayed that in this movie. So later found out that the girl that he had met in Philadelphia that he didn't speak to afterwards, the one that inspired the movie, had died in a motorcycle accident just before the movie started filming. So I think that that happening really pushed the changes in the script or his emotions to you only live once in this life. So you should take the risk. You should get off the train in Vienna with a random person you don't know because you just don't know if you're ever going to see this person again and you only live once. Take advantage of the time that you have. So during the script writing, at first he believed that the set was going to be in San Antonio on a train station. He was trying to be realistic about the budget of the movie, where even if he didn't have too much of a budget, he still wanted to make the movie. So he adapted that by trying to find something close from home since he's from Austin, Texas. So he knew that there was a good train station in San Antonio. But while promoting his movie, Dazed and Confused, which is another extremely popular movie, he was promoting that at the Vienna Film Festival. He got in touch with Martin Schaefer, and he's the co founder of Castle Rock Entertainment. Martin got his hands onto the script, and it was very premature. He said it was only about 35 pages the time that he first got it, but he felt that the script was different. He felt that the romantic comedies of the moment were completely different. This just had such a natural feel to it that he was like, "We need to make this bigger than what you're thinking." So because of that, he pushed for it to get more funding and they got the budget increased, and then that allowed them to set it in Europe. Linklater left several elements of the film up to viewers' imagination. And he did that because he wanted it to kind of be, well, I got this from the film, while the person next to me viewed it in a different way. He wanted those little changes and everyone's thoughts to kind of to get our brains thinking during it. So, for example, during a scene, Jesse and Celine lay in the grass and they're drinking wine. The scene alludes to them possibly to having sex, but it doesn't say either way. So, really, just it's up to the viewer of you could see it as they were just talking until the sun comes up, or maybe they fell asleep, or maybe it alludes to them doing something more. Linklater explains that technically you can see it in every way that you want to, or in any way that you want to, excuse me. But if you want to see his director point of view, if you look close enough, you'll see that she's dressed just a little bit differently. So it has to make you think of how that got that way. How did the shirt get on top of the dress? Or how did the belt get buttoned looser? So it gets your brain to think, okay, something more happened, but how much more? So he leaves all of that up to the viewer's imagination. During the filming process, they filmed using regular trains during their initial meetings, Jesse and Celine's initial meeting, and the send-off closing scene. Linklater explains that it took approximately 3 days to get all the shots, just simply the shots out of the window, shots of them going in the train, shots of them from outside the train, just all different angles. Another reason is they had to wait for the train to get up to a certain speed because if not, the train would get jumpy. And while they were on the train, it would just mess up audio and the camera getting bounced up and down because of that. They also had to time the final scene down to the second because the second that Celine gets to her seat, they want it to be right before the train starts moving so they could keep it, like I said, that continuous shot. They want to keep that longevity of not cutting the scene. The reason they had to count it down to the second is because they had to track when the train arrived and plan back of, okay, so when that train arrives, she needs to already be turning around at this second, and then they tracked how long it would take her to walk to point A to point B to point C to get it to be okay now, and the train takes off immediately as soon as she gets there. So all of that planning and preparation really makes us kind of understand what his intention behind having those long, not cut scenes. He wants it to feel more natural, unedited, and have the actors just continue to play into that moment. Because the script feels so natural and so just like the actors playing off of each other, it is it is deemed in the critics' world that the actors, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, did a lot of improv during this movie. Um, but Linklater and the actors come out and say, no, there was not much improv, that this script was so reworked and they had a lot of involvement in the script. So they helped rewrite and bounce ideas off of everyone during the script writing process, that it allowed it to feel more natural and not where they felt like they needed to create improv. Um, they really were involved in writing the script and also involved in rehearsing the script and rehearsing the scenes and making sure that everything was perfect before they even shot anything. They also explain that there was a lot of attention behind the choices they made. So with the Ferris wheel, um, they had a scene with they had a scene with the Ferris wheel, and they had to shoot what they could in 8 minutes, because then the Ferris wheel would start coming down again. And then once it got back up to the top, they would film the next 8 minutes. So they had to be really intentional of cutting up that 8 minutes at a time to make it feel really natural. And they had to find the best timing. Later on, they said that they went back to the Ferris wheel the next day early in the morning, and they allowed them to use it for an hour in the morning. So instead of it being dusk, it was dawn, but the lighting was very similar. The reason they changed this is after reviewing the film of the day prior, they noticed that each 8-minute time point, the light coloring was different. And that gets me talking about the color in the film. The film is beautiful. I mean, it's set in Europe. It is absolutely beautiful. Um, I just love this movie. I think it's so dreamy. When I first watched it, I was just captured by the way everything is so simple and natural. Not only the way that the script just flowed when the actors spoke and reacted off of each other, it made it feel like you're watching real life. It made it feel like you're actually watching just two people. You're sitting on that train with them, and you're just watching two people slowly fall in love and slowly realize that while they do fall in love, that it's not realistic and that it's eventually not going to lead anywhere. So then you also see that little piece of heartbreak as well. So I really enjoyed watching that play out. I also think that the ending broke my heart, like I just said, but it's understandable. They're never going to see each other again, or it was very unrealistic for them to see each other again. I have fallen in love with this style of movie. Like I had spoken previously, the color palette for me, it's rich, it's moody. Insert it right here. You can see the different hues. So on this picture here, it'll be the most prominent color from each scene of the film. So it's just it's just very, very beautiful and cohesive. I like kind of cohesive movies in that aspect of like they think about every little thing for the movie. So on my IMDb, I rated it a 9. I know that I speak so highly about this movie. You're probably thinking, why did I not rate it a 10? That's because I believe I rated the second movie a 10. I just love it just a little bit more. But this is a movie that I've talked to my husband a million times about after watching it. I think I've watched it, I can't even count how many times. Every single time I watch it, I just fall in love with the way they've captured the youth and that feeling of falling in love, and like I said, a little bit of heartbreak of, "Oh, I'm have to be realistic about life and be an adult and realize I'm not gonna see this person again." Alright, guys, so that is it for this week. Thank you so, so much for listening to today's episode. And next week, we'll focus on the second movie, Before Sunset. So I can't wait to fill y'all in about what happens next. And until then, watch the movie. Let me know what you guys think. Comment, subscribe, any movie or director recommendations, guys, please. And we'll talk soon.